Sumo is a battle fought within a ring by wrestlers wearing mawashi belts dating back to ancient Japan. It's considered one of the few sports without weight classes between competitors, so the larger and heavier sumo wrestlers have an advantage in each match. Among them, those with the potential to reach the highest rank, achieving Yokozuna status, receive nicknames based on national treasure swords, symbolizing absolute honor and strength. The protagonist of this story is Ushio Hinamaru, a sumo wrestler with a rather small build compared to others. Today, Hinamaru takes a train to visit the new school he's about to enroll in. While crowded on the busy train, he suddenly notices a female student being harassed by a pervert. Without hesitation, Hinamaru immediately acts heroically by grabbing the man's hand and dragging him off the train. However, since he's only wearing a loincloth, he nearly gets arrested by the police and has to explain himself before being released. Having gotten off one station early, Hinamaru now doesn't know where he is, and the map Kirihito drew isn't helping at all. After wandering around for a while, Hinamaru spots a sumo practitioner training in the scorching midday sun, so he immediately climbs over the wall to join in. He introduces himself as Hinamaru, a third-year middle school student who came to check out Ishigami High School because he heard about their famous sumo club. The chubby sumo practitioner is named Oski, the only member of the sumo club at this school. Hinamaru challenges Oski to a match and begins taking off his uniform, revealing a solid, muscular physique that shows he has trained extensively. The match begins, and Hinamaru quickly rushes forward to push Oski, nearly forcing him out of the ring. Oski refuses to give in and counterattacks, but Hinamaru executes an extremely fast move that knocks Oski to the ground. Oski is surprised by Hinamaru's excellent skills, especially since he has never seen him in any tournament. Hinamaru explains that he came to join the sumo club, which makes Oski so happy he jumps around repeatedly, finally having someone willing to join. When they go to the sumo practice room, they find it occupied by a group of delinquents, with one even spitting gum on the floor. Hinamaru demands that the person pick it up, but gets ignored, so he grabs the guy's shirt and pulls him down to the floor, warning him not to mess with him. Just then, a white-haired guy named Yuma steps forward. He's the leader of the delinquents. Hinamaru isn't intimidated by Yuma at all and challenges him to a sumo match, but gets laughed at by the delinquents. Oski, frightened, rushes over to apologize to Yuma and pulls Hinamaru away. Yuma is actually the school's top dog, undefeatable because he studied karate and won the Kanto championship in middle school. Hinamaru changes the subject and asks about other members, but Oski explains that the sumo club at Odachi High School has only him as a member. Hinamaru then realizes he went to the wrong school. He says goodbye to Oski and leaves to find Ishigami School, but somehow ends up back at Odachi. As he's about to leave again, he sees Oski standing stunned in the schoolyard. The sumo ring he worked hard to create has been destroyed by the delinquents from earlier. Hinamaru angrily rushes over to confront Yuma but gets held back by his minions. He challenges Yuma to a one-on-one match, but Oski quickly intervenes, advising against getting involved with someone like Yuma, who is despicable and willing to use any means to win. To protect Hinamaru, Oski proactively goes to the gym to apologize to Yuma, but Yuma demands that Oski give up sumo for him to let the matter go. Hinamaru doesn't allow this to happen. He comes to the gym as agreed, and seeing him wearing only a loincloth, they start mocking and looking down on him. Oski asks why he came, and Hinamaru says it's his responsibility. Someone who abandons others for their own sake will never become a yokozuna. A yokozuna must have a strong will, refined technique, and a solid body. Unfortunately, Hinamaru's body isn't large, so he can only compensate with unwavering determination, which is why he hopes Oski will never give up sumo. Yuma hears this and applauds, moved. He sets the rule that if Hinamaru can endure for 10 minutes, he'll win. However, Yuma soon realizes he's messed with the wrong person. To get where he is today, Hinamaru has trained rigorously, making his entire body as hard as rock. Yuma launches attack after attack, but Hinamaru stands firm, his hands turning red yet showing no sign of giving in. Students staying late for evening classes gather to watch them. In sumo, if any body part other than the soles of the feet touches the ground, it's a loss, so Hinamaru has trained himself never to fall, even taunting Yuma that he fights like a woman. Now it's Hinamaru's turn to attack. He launches a move that sends Yuma flying several meters. Just one hit is enough to defeat Yuma. He is actually a national treasure who won consecutive championships during elementary school 3 years ago. He's so strong that people gave him a nickname after a demon. The delinquents try to gang up on Hinamaru, but are stopped by their leader. Yuma had 15 minutes but still couldn't defeat Hinamaru. While Hinamaru needed just one move, Yuma admits defeat and returns the practice room to the sumo club. Hinamaru tells him he can come challenge him anytime. Hinamaru wants to become the strongest student sumo wrestler to prove to everyone that size doesn't matter. He'll make professional sumo wrestlers come here and bow before him. The next day, Odachi School has an event recruiting members for clubs. Oski works hard to recruit members, but no one wants to join his sumo club. When he returns to the practice room, he finds Hinamaru waiting, who announces to Oski that he'll officially join the club. After joining the club, Hinamaru practiced with Oski all afternoon. During training, club president Oski continuously failed time after time. Clearly no match for Hinamaru despite trying his best. However, Hinamaru quickly realized the president wasn't weak at all, as he had diligently practiced the basic exercises, making his legs and back extremely strong, demonstrating a solid physical foundation. After the first training session, Hinamaru felt excited and eager for the upcoming tournament. However, the current sumo club, including himself who just joined, only has 2 people. While they need at least 5 to participate in competitions, they need 3 more members. Oski looks worried, but the protagonist tells him not to worry because he has a plan, guaranteeing that tomorrow countless members will come to register. His plan is simple: cook a delicious pot of stew to attract people. Meanwhile, Yuma, the protagonist's opponent from the previous episode, is dreaming about being defeated by Hinamaru, almost falling off his chair in fear. His minions notice and tease him, earning themselves a glare that silences them. Meanwhile, Hinamaru is busy preparing his stew. Wanting it to be nutritious, he generously adds garlic and protein powder, resulting in a taste so terrible that no one can eat it, even cats would refuse it. Just then, a second-year senpai comes over and heartily eats Hinamaru's stew, praising it enthusiastically. This large guy is named Chihiro, a member of the wrestling club. When Hinamaru and Oski still haven't persuaded anyone to join the sumo club, Chihiro gives them tickets to watch the wrestling club's performance show, so they abandon their booth and go to watch. The wrestling club's performance is very lively. Chihiro demonstrates impressive strength. He was a national champion last year. After winning, he even shows his opponent where he went wrong. Truly an enthusiastic senpai. Seeing this, Hinamaru gets fired up, so he takes off his uniform and steps up to challenge Chihiro to a match between the wrestling club and the sumo club. Oski reminds Hinamaru that while beating the wrestling champion would bring fame to the sumo club, he also warns that the rules of the 2 sports are completely different, and applying them in competition wouldn't be appropriate. In wrestling, after a pinning move, the opponent risks suffering a deadly move with no defense possible. In sumo, an opponent who leaves the ring or touches the ground with their hand loses. Chihiro finds sumo rather weak because it can't make the opponent submit. So Hinamaru proposes that they compete with him using sumo rules and Chihiro using wrestling rules to determine superiority. For fairness, Chihiro wears a belt similar to sumo wrestlers. The student council president, Riane, serves as the referee for this match. The match begins. Chihiro rushes forward like lightning, intending to throw Hinamaru down, but gets his head pushed straight to the ground by Hinamaru using just one hand. If this were sumo, he might have lost. But according to wrestling rules, the match continues, so Chihiro gets up and keeps fighting. Chihiro then charges to use his specialty wrestling move to defeat Hinamaru. But Hinamaru's feet remain as steady as a rock. No wrestler has better balance than a sumo wrestler. As for Chihiro, Hinamaru can easily lift one of his legs, causing him to fall because the lower body is less used in wrestling. Chihiro then unleashes his final technique, trying to get under Hinamaru and shoulder throw him. But Hinamaru's lower body strength is still something not to be trifled with. Not only is Chihiro's ultimate move ineffective, but Hinamaru counters with a left-hand throw that sends him flying out of the circle, ending the match. The student council president, Riane, doesn't look happy seeing Hinamaru win. She had intended to rule against him unfairly but didn't succeed. Nevertheless, after the match, Chihiro shows admiration. He realizes sumo is an interesting martial art and asks to join the sumo club, wanting to master the centering skills and hand attacks of sumo to become a mixed martial artist. Seeing this, Rihanna points directly at Hinamaru's face, declaring she will never forgive him, leaving everyone around puzzled, thinking he might have deceived her. As Hinamaru's group is about to leave, a first-year student who found the earlier match impressive runs up asking to join the sumo club. His name is Kei. As for Riane, the reason she hates Hinamaru is because she's Yuma's sister and wants revenge on his behalf. The next day, when Hinamaru and Oski arrive at the practice room, they find it cleaned thoroughly by Yuma, who also wants to join the sumo club. Seeing Oski's fear, he proactively bows and apologizes for his actions, hoping they'll allow him to learn sumo. Chihiro and the new first-year student who asked to join yesterday witness this scene and tease Yuma, making him blush with embarrassment. Just then, a black-haired guy with glasses approaches. His name is Kirihito, an old friend of Hinamaru's. Kirihito is a student at Odachi who came to see his friend after hearing he was here. Kirihito also studied sumo and wants to join the sumo club. Not as a member, but as a coach, warning that at this rate they'd be eliminated in the first round. So he'll take on the role of guiding them toward the national tournament. A week later, Kirihito has taken everyone to one of the top sumo schools, Aiga High School, for training. This time, even the student council president Riane came along. As soon as they enter Aiga's practice room, everyone is amazed. Inside, there are tall, muscular young men. No one can believe that such large, sturdy people are just high school students. Kirihito believes that if a weak school like Odachi wants to compete in the national tournament, they must face the truth about their abilities, and the best way to do that is to practice with a top-tier team. Before coming here, Kirihito had thoroughly researched each club member. Yuma has an excellent karate foundation and won the Kanto championship. Chihiro is a national wrestling champion, and Oski, though lacking official match experience, has developed steady physical strength and endurance through persistent training. Kei rarely plays sports, only played the flute when he was 6. Yuma doubts Kirihito's abilities and refuses to be directed by amateurs. Hinamaru introduces that he and Kirihito were at the same sumo dojo in elementary school, but Kirihito couldn't compete. Nevertheless, he assures them that Odachi High will reach the nationals, and for that goal, they'll practice with Aiga High to gain experience. Even Kei must participate since a team requires a minimum of 5 people. Shortly after, Riane also arrives. Upon seeing her brother, she becomes angry and starts scolding them for making Yuma carry so much. But the others show that they're all carrying the same bags full of Chiba specialty peanuts. The captain of Aiga High's sumo club, Yamoda, comes to welcome them. He's a very kind person and seems to know Hinamaru. When Riane sees her brother Yuma wearing a sumo belt, her face turns red. Turns out she's brother obsessed. The members at Aiga haven't even heard of Odachi High and begin judging the physiques of Hinamaru's team members. In the first match, Yuma faces an extremely muscular opponent. Just as the match begins, before Yuma can do anything, he's hit with a series of kicks and easily defeated. Oski's turn isn't any better. He's easily thrown to the ground by his opponent. Kei, seeing his opponent several times his size, trembles with fear and clearly isn't a match for him. Meanwhile, Hinamaru notices a white-haired boy on the opposing team with a small build like his own. He quickly recognizes him as Shun, who had studied sumo with him, and goes to greet him. When it's Chihiro's turn, being a former national wrestling champion, he easily uses his wrestling skills to defeat his opponent. Meanwhile, Shun has gone to the gym to inform someone named Q's that Hinamaru is here and wants him to come to the practice room. However, Q's refuses and says he'll go home. At this point, Hinamaru has arrived and meets Q's, who turns out to be another national treasure. Q's recalls once facing Hinamaru in an elementary school tournament, where his superior physique accidentally broke one of Hinamaru's arms during the match. Q's wasn't allowed to compete after that, even though many children get injured in sumo. Q's mother believed he just needed to learn to control his strength, but his father disagreed, feeling that if his son's extraordinary talent meant teaching him restraint during matches, he'd rather not let him compete until he turned professional. Q's is still haunted by this incident. Hinamaru challenges him, saying that since elementary school, he's never felt anyone was his equal. However, Q's still refuses, following his father's wishes. He fears history will repeat itself, and he'll break Hinamaru's arm again. So Shun steps forward to accept the challenge in Q's place. Shun was also a middle school lightweight champion, so his skills can't be underestimated. Yuma is curious because sumo also has weight classes. Many amateur sumo competitions are divided by weight, but the inter-high and professional sumo competitions that Hinamaru wants to enter don't do this. Although smaller people are usually at a disadvantage, even without weight classes, Shun still reached the national quarterfinals last year, shocking everyone. Shun was also hindered by his small stature in middle school, but unlike Hinamaru, He achieved success early because he had his own way of overcoming his weakness. For Hinamaru, who is used to fighting large and powerful wrestlers, Shun will be a very formidable opponent. The match begins, and Hinamaru and Shun rush to attack each other. Shun deliberately attacks low against Hinamaru, a strategy that helped him win in lightweight divisions. Hinamaru then launches a series of kicks, forcing Shun to continually back away to dodge. After some back and forth, Hinamaru finally grabs Shun's belt and lifts him up. Seizing the opportunity, Shun immediately executes an outside leg lock, trying to throw Hinamaru down, but he resists. Hinamaru then tightens his grip and unleashes his Demon Wheel technique, followed by his Demon Storm, but Shun still stands firm. Seeing that both techniques are ineffective, Hinamaru combines the Demon Wheel and Demon Storm to create his ultimate technique, the 100 Demons Throw, successfully taking down his opponent and claiming victory. After defeating Shun, Hinamaru turns to challenge Q's. Q's, seeing that Hinamaru has grown much stronger than the boy he once knew, agrees to step into the ring. The match begins, and they clash heads. Hinamaru is thrown back, and Q's follows up with another strike that pushes him back several meters. Hinamaru charges forward to counterattack, but his arm is caught in the same lock that broke it years ago. Q's has become extremely ruthless, his eyes radiating hatred, intending to use the arm-breaking technique to win. Hinamaru struggles free, charges to attack again, but is countered by Q's arm thrust. He manages to grab Q's belt, and they hold on to each other tightly. The next move will determine the winner, with both their fighting spirits burning fiercely. Hinamaru unleashes his 100 Demons Throw, while Q's counters with his Great Serpent Slash technique. Just as the match reaches its peak intensity, a teacher suddenly rushes in to stop the students. In the late afternoon, they all walk home in a gloomy atmosphere. Kirihito evaluates Hinamaru's fighting style as foolish, but somehow it suits him, and says he'll teach Hinamaru how to win using that foolish style. The next day, Kirihito rented a fishing boat for everyone to practice balance at sea. Hinamaru and Chihiro were busy harvesting seaweed, while Yuma was seasick, his face pale and unable to stand steadily. Kei was even weaker, unable to endure and vomiting into the sea, which immediately earned him a scolding from Chihiro for polluting the environment. The boat kept bobbing with each wave, making it extremely difficult to maintain balance. Just a slight carelessness would cause them to fall immediately. The key point of sumo is to make the opponent lose balance, so training like this helps increase balance and stability. The clever Chihiro claimed he knew the purpose of this trip. Harvesting seaweed could simulate grabbing the Mawashi belt in sumo, but Kirihito flatly denied this. The next day, on the way to school, Kirihito suddenly asked Hinamaru about the past. During a phone conversation, Kirihito had asked if Hinamaru was still interested in sumo, and of course, Hinamaru firmly affirmed that he was. Hinamaru likes sumo because he still wants to prove the strength of the Yokozuna style he pursues. Kirihito said that Hinamaru hasn't won since starting middle school, and while his Yokozuna style is interesting, there are more effective ways. Just training hard doesn't mean you'll succeed. Even Hinamaru's teacher, Yomado-kuni, once said so. Back in middle school, during a training session, Hinamaru was constantly scrutinized by other students about his body size. Hinamaru said he would use the teacher's attack method and would wear another Yokozuna belt. But teacher Yomado-kuni just told him to go practice for 3 more years and then come back. Even now, Hinamaru still persists with that fighting style, never changing. While playing with his phone, Chihiro accidentally found the requirements to become a professional sumo wrestler. The minimum required height is 167 centimeters, which means that no matter how much he trains, Hinamaru can never participate in professional competitions. At this point, Kirihito arranged separate training schedules for each person, adjusting details according to each member's abilities and weaknesses. Kei wondered why Kirihito wasn't training if he was also participating in the competition, but Kirihito explained that he wouldn't be competing instead. He would coach so that even newcomers like Kei could defeat others. The first match was between Kei and Yuma. Right at the start, Yuma rushed forward throwing a flurry of punches at Kei, but with just one opening, Kei successfully made Yuma lose balance, fall to the ground, and claim victory. Yuma showed dissatisfaction, but after hearing Kirihito analyze his weakness that his punches placed all his body strength in the upper body, making his legs unable to support him, so just dodging would cause him to lose balance, he understood. Next was Chihiro. Being a national wrestling champion, he was quite confident. However, when the match had just begun, Kei executed an inner ankle sweep that caused Chihiro to lose balance and touch the ground with his hand. Kirihito continued to point out that Chihiro's weakness was in his lower body, common among wrestlers. The only promising one at this point was Oski. Indeed, he withstood Kei's first attack, but after Kirihito coached him, Kei adjusted his technique and successfully threw Oski down, impressing even Hinamaru. Kirihito pointed out that Oski's weakness was that while his leg strength was very strong, his upper body was weak, so as soon as an opponent got close, he would be at a disadvantage. Kirihito's accurate analysis made Yuma admire him. However, Kirihito criticized that no one competing in national tournaments should have such obvious weaknesses as they did. That's why he was here to train everyone to become special sumo wrestlers who could finish opponents with just a single move. To show everyone that he didn't just talk, but also had real skills, Kirihito challenged Hinamaru and went to change clothes. The match was intense. Hinamaru's fighting spirit was blazing. He declared he wouldn't go easy on Kirihito. Kirihito, ripe wheat bowing its head, advised Hinamaru to be less arrogant. The match began, and Kirihito, in a spider stance, rushed forward, forcing Hinamaru to engage at the lower body and blocking his direct charge. Hinamaru, with his Yokozuna style, continuously launched powerful attacks pushing Kirihito back. But Kirihito showed Hinamaru why he was the teacher. With just one arm grab and position change, Kirihito almost succeeded in making Hinamaru rush outside due to inertia. The two continued to struggle. Hinamaru executed a technique combining a throw and body rotation, creating the ultimate 100 Demons throw technique to knock down Kirihito. However, Kirihito also used the same 100 Demons throw technique as Hinamaru, even combining it with a leg sweep, a 3-move combo that made Hinamaru concede defeat. After the match, Kirihito supported himself on his hands, breathing heavily. Although the 3-move combo was stronger than the 2-move combo, it was extremely dangerous because once executed, there was no turning back. If it didn't succeed, there would be no chance to correct the mistake. Afterward, Kirihito told everyone to continue training while he went to the changing room. Kei, noticing Kirihito had forgotten his glasses, ran after him and accidentally saw him using an oxygen tank to breathe. It turns out the reason Kirihito couldn't compete was that his lungs were very weak. He could only fight for 20 seconds. If he fought longer than 20 seconds, he would be like someone drowning. This meant Kirihito could never last through a tournament where multiple matches are fought in one day. But with his love for sumo, he decided to become a coach. Additionally, Kirihito had been monitoring and knew that Kei had been practicing diligently after school training hours and silently acknowledged this. Outside, Yuma wondered why Hinamaru still trained despite not meeting the requirements for professional competition. Kirihito explained that although he doesn't meet the standards for professional tournaments, there's still a way to participate. If they win the high school tournament, equivalent to an amateur tournament, they'll be invited to participate in the Japan National Championship. Moreover, the most popular wrestler doesn't need to pass the physical test and will still be able to participate in the Makishita category. However, this path isn't easy, as there are many other strong people considered national treasures all over Japan. On the other side, Q's apologized to his father for competing before turning professional. However, his father, far from scolding him, asked Q's how he felt. The match with Hinamaru reminded Q's of how much he loved sumo. He wanted to defeat everyone and become the strongest high school sumo wrestler, then bring honor to his family. Hearing this, his father smiled because it was the first time his son had expressed his wishes. Back at Odachi High School, the members officially recognized Kirihito as their coach, and he also announced that starting tomorrow, they would face hellish training. The next day, Rihanna came to the sumo club's practice room as usual to invite her brother to go home together after school. But as soon as she opened the door, she saw one person moving in front of a fish tank, 2 others lying on the floor doing continuous sit-ups, and Yuma, her brother, playing with a small ping-pong ball tied to a string. The whole room looked like a kindergarten. At first glance, Rihanna thought they were all doing meaningless things, but in reality, each action was part of the training plan that Kirihito had carefully arranged. The ping-pong ball that Yuma was practicing with wasn't just for play, but an exercise to help him improve his balance and reflexes, especially training leg and back muscles to avoid being pushed off the fighting platform. Chihiro's movement in front of the fish tank looked strange, but he was actually mimicking the fish's movements in water. These flexible and smooth movements are very similar to the necessary movements in the sumo ring. Oski and Kei holding water in their mouths was to practice breath control, helping to stabilize breathing and better control the body during competition. Rihanna didn't understand why they would listen to someone who only sat around and never did any practical training. Yuma, though initially not liking Kirihito either, came to understand that Kirihito was truly serious about this after seeing him bow his head for everyone. Yuma's instinct told him that by following Kirihito, he would definitely become stronger. Hinamaru's movement was too erratic, so he was defeated by Oski. By now, everyone had completely placed their trust in Kirihito's leadership ability. After that day's training, Kirihito surprisingly called everyone together to announce a new plan. Since the official competition was approaching, they needed a practice match to test the results of their training at Ishigami High School. Ishigami High School was known to be a very strong opponent. Their team even included a middle school level Yokozuna and a figure known as a national treasure named Mikazuki. Hinamaru was excited because he was about to try his improved 100 Demons throw technique. But Kirihito gave him an address to a different place because that's where he needed to train. The next day, they all went to Ishigami High School. The school gates were covered with graffiti, giving the place a chaotic and dangerous atmosphere. Since Chihiro had just failed his midterm exam the day before, he wouldn't be participating today. Suddenly, a gang of delinquents with blue and red hair appeared threatening Kirihito's group. Just as they were about to cause trouble, a young man stepped forward and stopped the blonde-haired one, saying these were guests of the Sumo Club. Upon hearing the Sumo Club mentioned, the delinquents immediately changed their attitude and ran away, leaving their slippers behind. The blue-haired young man then led everyone to the sumo practice room. There, Kirihito's group encountered tall, muscular young men like walking muscle blocks, lifting a tire weighing 150 kilograms. They were only first-year students, but already possessed such enormous muscles. The people there also knew about Hinamaru's reputation because he had defeated Q's, but when they learned that Hinamaru wasn't present today, they showed contempt and didn't want to fight with Kirihito's group. In their eyes, Kirihito's group looked too small and weak compared to the standards of the giant wrestlers there. At that moment, a giant tire suddenly rolled towards them. Everything happened in an instant. Oski instinctively rushed forward, using his entire body to block the impact. The eyes that had shown contempt before now turned to amazement, and Ishigami High School's sumo club agreed to practice with them. Back at Odachi High School, Chihiro, having just finished studying, was about to go to the sumo practice room when he discovered a strange man sitting there. The atmosphere around this guy exuded danger, making Chihiro cautious, but when he got closer, he discovered the man was sleeping. Annoyed by this casual attitude, Chihiro decided to approach and give him a slap just strong enough to wake him up. The stranger's name was Araki, from Ishigami High School. He had come to scout Odachi High School's sumo club, having heard that Hinamaru defeated Q's and wanting to meet him. Chihiro, taking a risk, claimed to be Hinamaru. Hearing this, Araki left disappointed, saying if this was the real Hinamaru, he didn't look strong enough and defeating Q's must have been luck. Chihiro's pride was hurt, and unable to swallow this frustration, he challenged Araki to a match. At Ishigami High School, Kirihito's group was still training tirelessly. Their first match would be between Yuma and a guy weighing 166 kilograms. Thanks to the ping-pong ball exercise Kirihito had taught, Yuma could easily coordinate his attacks with the opponent's movements. However, the weight difference in actual competition was still no joke. Yuma was knocked down by his opponent with just one move. Meanwhile, the match between Chihiro and Araki had also begun. After a few exchanges, Araki quickly realized that the opponent in front of him couldn't possibly be the Hinamaru he was looking for. In fact, both were wrestlers. The match between Chihiro and Araki was later halted because security discovered them. Before leaving, Araki promised to have another match with Chihiro sometime. The next match at Ishigami would be between Team Captain Oski and National Treasure Sada Mizuki. Oski was afraid of facing such a strong opponent, but Kirihito encouraged him, saying if he could keep up with Hinamaru during practice, there was nothing to fear. The match began. Oski rushed forward, intending to grab Mizuki's Mawashi belt to control the match, but Mizuki easily dodged thanks to his speed. Oski couldn't even touch Mizuki and was being toyed with like a cat playing with a mouse. Mizuki's strikes were light but deadly. Oski's arm was locked by an outer hand grip technique targeting the opponent's joint. This attack made Oski so painful he couldn't breathe, but thanks to the water-holding exercise Kirihito had trained him with, he could still endure and tried to counterattack. However, the difference in level was too obvious. Mizuki immediately unleashed his half-moon technique, easily throwing Oski out of the ring. After claiming victory, Mizuki sent a challenge to Hinamaru. At this time, Hinamaru had arrived at Shibakiyama, a place famous for training the strongest wrestlers, renowned for its hellish training regimens. Inside the Shibakiyama dojo, large sumo wrestlers were training with each other. Master Shibakiyama, with his discerning eye, sat watching and correcting the wrestlers' movements. The wrestlers there thought their master was unusually cheerful today because a female student named Saki was sitting and watching. But it was actually because of the participation of a student called the trump card of Odachi High School. Master Shibakiyama, wearing sunglasses, sat anxiously, eager to see the abilities of the youngster that Kirihito confidently claimed would become a first-rate sumo wrestler. Just then, Hinamaru entered. Because he looked so small, Master Shibakiyama mistakenly thought he was Hinamaru's assistant. After hearing him claim he was indeed Hinamaru, Master Shibakiyama couldn't believe this kid was only 152 centimeters tall and appeared dejected. But since he was already here, Hinamaru joined the training. Observing Hinamaru's movements, a senpai stepped forward and praised his footwork, introducing himself as Terahara, a former high school sumo wrestler, telling him not to hold back. Hinamaru felt a bit tense, while Saki felt the atmosphere had lightened since he arrived. Although Hinamaru was here, the sumo wrestlers seemed quite normal, appearing to look down on him for practicing sumo just because he liked it. At this point, a wrestler approached Hinamaru and invited him to play a game called the Shibakiyama Challenge that everyone who trained here participated in. The rule of this game was that if Hinamaru could push one of the wrestlers out of the ring, he would receive a shirt as a souvenir, and of course, he wasn't afraid of anyone. The first one up was Terahara. Terahara thought in his mind of a scenario where he would tease Hinamaru a bit and then let him win. But Master Shibakiyama had instructed him to fight seriously. The match began. Hinamaru rushed forward, rammed into Terahara senpai, and pushed him. By the time he could react, his foot was already outside the ring. Hinamaru joked that he really liked the souvenirs here, but his friends liked them too, so he hoped the master would allow him to fully experience all the training exercises at Shibakiyama. Meanwhile, Kirihito's group had stopped training and was taking a break. They all wondered why Kirihito chose the Shibakiyama dojo. In professional circles, Shibakiyama was considered the strictest training dojo, famous for a master with fearsome, explosive attacks nicknamed Firecracker. He was someone who once made Yokozuna Yamato-kuni struggle tremendously in his prime, with a fighting style similar to Hinamaru's small but always preferring direct attacks. The reason Kirihito chose Shibakiyama was because he wanted to see how that master would feel when he saw Hinamaru's fighting style. On the other side, Hinamaru was defeating opponent after opponent. By now, Master Shibakiyama had realized he had underestimated Hinamaru too much. Despite failures, he never gave up, and his passion even spread to other wrestlers. Saki discovered that Norihiro senpai was secretly watching Hinamaru train, and Master Shibakiyama called him to step out. Until now, Hinamaru had only fought with second and third-rate wrestlers. In the sumo world, only 70 people in the Juryo rank or above are allowed to tie their hair in the Oicho style and call themselves Sekitori. Only Sekitori are permitted to wear white mawashi belts during training, and Norihiro was one of them. Yet Hinamaru dared to challenge Norihiro. Other wrestlers tried to stop him, but surprisingly, Norihiro said he also very much wanted to fight Hinamaru. The match began. Hinamaru rushed to attack, but Norihiro didn't even bother to move. With just one move, he easily pinned Hinamaru to the ground, finally meeting a truly strong opponent. Hinamaru excitedly requested one challenge after another, but the differences in physique and ability were too great he couldn't defeat Norihiro. Norihiro was about to leave, thinking further fighting would just waste time, but Hinamaru wanted to challenge him once more since he was only here for one day. Norihiro felt Hinamaru was stubborn. Even if he failed, there was nothing to be ashamed of. Someone like him would be quite successful in the high school sumo environment. But Hinamaru felt that being quite successful wasn't enough. He would become a Yokozuna like Norihiro. Norihiro considered Hinamaru's dream of becoming a Yokozuna a joke, as he understood how long and arduous that path was. Norihiro agreed to one more match, but his eyes had become cold and sharp. Hinamaru also realized he needed to improve his approach to battle. Since he had no skills that could overwhelm Norihiro, he adjusted his preparation stance to the lowest position. The match began. Norihiro launched a direct hit to Hinamaru's face, but Hinamaru used his knees as a buffer to absorb the blow, so he could still hold on. Hinamaru remembered Norihiro's earlier words. His face and will became stronger, with an unbelievable power surging within him. Hinamaru charged forward like a blazing fire demon, grabbed Norihiro's Mawashi belt, and threw him down, causing everyone around to gasp in astonishment. But as the dust settled, the one lying on the ground was Hinamaru. Norihiro had pushed him down first, although his knee had also touched the ground. Since he was so close to victory, Hinamaru felt very angry. Norihiro promised to see him again tomorrow to see more of what he could do. Meanwhile, Kirihito's group had returned to school. Chihiro told them that a guy named Araki from Ishigami High had come. Hinamaru called Kirihito to inform him that today he would stay at the Shibakiyama dojo to train for tomorrow. For dinner that night, Hinamaru was treated to a pot of authentic Chankanabe stew that made his mouth water. Hinamaru sat down next to Saki, with a group of sumo wrestlers standing and waiting behind them. They also knew Hinamaru was a national treasure who had faced Qs, and hearing the term national treasure, they were all surprised. Recently, Qs had been a hot topic. People discussed how quickly he would rise in rank if he competed professionally. Norihiro asked Hinamaru who was better between him and Qs. Hinamaru didn't say who was better but stated that when fighting Qs, he did better than when fighting Norihiro, making everyone around laugh. In the following days, Hinamaru lived, trained, and had fun with everyone at the Shibakiyama dojo, moments that made him so happy he wished they could last forever. One night, Saki heard a noise and woke up. Going outside, she found Hinamaru training alone. They chatted casually. Saki had been coming here during her days off to watch her brother train. Saki asked the same question her brother Norihiro had asked earlier. Her gaze didn't allow Hinamaru to evade, so he honestly admitted that of course Norihiro was better. But if Qs and Norihiro fought each other, it was uncertain who would win. At this moment, Master Shibakiyama, who had been sleeping, came out saying he would have a match with Hinamaru. Not everyone got to see him take his clothes off like this, so Hinamaru should appreciate it. Hinamaru didn't understand why the master was trying so hard for a wrestler who didn't meet the requirements for professional competition. In the past, the master had also been criticized for being small and hopeless, but he still tried hard to become a Yokozuna. Though he only reached the rank of Sekawake, he had passed that dream to Norihiro, but he had another dream to see a small person become a Yokozuna, so he wanted Hinamaru to realize that dream. In short, the master really liked Hinamaru. The conversation outside had awakened the other sumo wrestlers. Since they were already up, they all started training. Before long, the break days were over. Hinamaru and Saki had to leave. She promised that if their school won many matches, they would meet at the national tournament. Hinamaru was determined to become a high school Yokozuna. Saki wished him luck, but said it would be difficult because her brother would also be participating. Hinamaru was curious about the school where Saki was the sumo club manager. Upon hearing the name Totori Hakiro, he immediately felt a chill down his spine. It turned out that Saki was the younger sister of Tanoji Shido, the national sumo champion. Hinamaru found Oski in the back corner of the school where they first met. Unlike their first meeting, there were now no traces related to sumo. Hinamaru recalled how the sumo club once had only one member, yet now they had 6 people and were aiming to become the strongest wrestlers in Japan. Since it was their final year, Oski would have no more chances to fix mistakes. But after the previous training session, he realized he didn't want to end the journey here and still wanted to continue practicing sumo with everyone. Hinamaru encouraged Oski, saying that if it weren't for him maintaining the club despite being ridiculed, they wouldn't be where they are today. So they wouldn't let this match be the last. They would overcome the regional qualifiers and advance to the national round. The next day, the sumo clubs from various schools had gathered fully at the tournament. A wrestler named Tsuyoshi represented the sumo wrestlers there and stood up to declare the honorable oath of sumo wrestlers. A senior standing in the stands shouted loudly to cheer for Hinamaru, but got hit on the head by the master because they were secretly coming here. Although the master looked even more flamboyant, Hinamaru's first match was against a heavyweight opponent named Ito from Kashiwa School. The audience started whispering because they hadn't even heard of Odachi High School. Looking at the physical difference, they could tell who would win without watching. The match began. Hinamaru wasn't afraid and charged straight to face the opponent head-on. With his technique, he used the demon wheel move to easily defeat his heavier opponent. Everyone around witnessing that throw recognized him as Q's former opponent, the national treasure Onimaru Kunitsuna. Sada, seeing this scene, showed interest before leaving to answer a magazine interview. Next was Chihiro's match. It didn't take long for his opponent to be defeated with an outer thigh throw, a skill used in wrestling. Then it was Yuma's turn. He unleashed a series of rapid pushes that directly pushed his opponent out of the ring. The surrounding audience now turned to cheer for Odachi High School, which had won 3 consecutive matches and advanced to the second round. However, when it came to Kei's turn, he was too weak to do anything, so only Kei failed, while Oski Senpai used a move to push his opponent out of the ring with sheer mass, even leaving footprints. Ishigami High School seemed to have noticed them, so they needed to focus on fighting. Before entering the semifinals, Kirihito and Hinamaru went outside to check the situation and encountered Sada. Sada wished Hinamaru could advance to the finals because it would be boring without an opponent. They exchanged words, and Hinamaru concluded by saying he would defeat Sada. After Hinamaru's next victory, Odachi High School advanced directly to the finals. But Kei couldn't be happy because he had been a burden to the team. Since Ishigami High School was very strong this season, Kirihito had to hold a tactical meeting. He planned to let Kei fight against Sada, conceding that match and focusing on the remaining ones. They would try to win the matches they could, secure the overall victory, and together become the strongest team in Japan. In this final, the first person to step onto the fighting platform would be Kei, and it was almost in game as his opponent was a tall man several times his size. People around started whispering, but Kei maintained his confidence, supported by his teammates' encouragement. Kei remembered the previous training session. He couldn't do anything, but Kirihito still encouraged him, and the other members still welcomed him. Therefore, Kei wanted to become stronger to win. He would do anything as long as it helped the team. The match began. The tall, muscular opponent charged forward, but Kei was no longer there. With his small frame, he quickly slipped behind the opponent and tried to grab his Mawashi belt. However, the opponent's reaction was too fast. He quickly turned around and launched a move that sent Kei flying straight out of the ring. Indeed, skill alone cannot secure victory, as sumo is a martial art where physique is very important. Captain Oski comforted Kei, saying he had done very well and shouldn't feel sad. The next match was between Chihiro and Araki. Although this was the final, they were still busy taunting each other. Araki confidently declared this would be Odachi High School's second loss. Araki wanted a match where both weren't under mental pressure, so they could find out who was stronger. The sumo sport is called team competition, but it's actually 5 individual matches, so there's no need to worry too much about this match. The match began, and both wrestlers didn't move. The crowd started booing. People came here to watch sumo, but these 2 guys were wrestlers from 2 different martial arts. Chihiro made the first move, grabbing both of his opponent's legs, but this was already anticipated by Araki. Araki ignored all his teammates' previous words, the crowd's cheers, the championship title, the expectations of the senpais, and the days of hard training. The most important thing now was to defeat the opponent in front of him. Araki countered with an inner thigh throw, trying to toss Chihiro to the side. Chihiro also counterattacked with a hip throw, thinking he would win, but Araki managed to rest his weight on Chihiro's knee, somersaulted in mid-air, and landed, stunning the surrounding audience. Araki lost his balance. Chihiro rushed to attack, but was met with judo's sacrifice technique, using the entire body weight to pull the opponent down. No wrestling moves could help Chihiro escape this sacrifice technique. Just as Chihiro was about to give up, Hinamaru's voice brought him back to reality. Chihiro realized this was perfect. He executed the demon wheel technique to knock Araki down to the ground, then coughed loudly, declaring himself the strongest. After Chihiro defeated Araki, the crowd started cheering. This wasn't a battle between judo and wrestling, because if it were judo, Araki would have won. And if it were wrestling, Chihiro would definitely win. This was sumo. After being defeated by Chihiro, Araki couldn't believe it and remained lying flat on the ground. Thanks to the victory in the second match, Odachi High School had tied the score with Ishigami High School. Next up was Yuma's turn to fight. Chihiro mentioned they now had the right to lose one more match, which made Yuma's blood boil. After Chihiro's performance, Yuma's mind was now focused solely on victory. On the ring, Araki was still standing there stunned, refusing to leave the fighting platform. Ishigami's team captain had to go up and encourage him before he would leave. Yuma's opponent in this match would be Ishigami's team captain. They had observed the mark on his forehead and guessed he might be the type to headbutt first, so if Yuma got too close, he would essentially lose. The match began. The opponent was very strong and immediately landed a direct hit on Yuma's face, followed by continuous strikes. He hit with resentment because Yuma was the leader of Odachi School's gang. Ishigami School had always had troublemakers who provoked the Sumo Club. They had even been banned from competitions due to the mischief of those gangs. Therefore, having Yuma standing there was like a punching bag for him to release his frustration. Being attacked continuously forced Yuma to retreat constantly without being able to do anything, and soon he was backed into a corner. Just as he was about to lose, Yuma remembered how he was once a member of the karate club, but had been expelled due to his delinquent behavior. No matter how much he begged, the master there firmly refused to allow Yuma to train because of the stains he had caused. In that pouring rain, Yuma had knelt down and begged to train because he wanted to win for his teammates. Seeing a delinquent lowering his ego for his teammates moved the master, who agreed to let Yuma stay and train. Back to the match. Yuma applied a defensive move from karate combined with a rotation that caused Ishigami's captain to lose balance. Seizing this moment, Yuma continued to rush forward, striking directly at his head. But the opponent was no pushover. He head-butted Yuma, almost sending him flying out of the ring. Yuma remembered his master's training, executed a leg sweep, and delivered a direct kick to Ishigami captain's leg, but his leg was unaffected. However, this wasn't the main attack. Yuma followed up with his ultimate city-breaking fist, causing him to stagger and nearly fall. Yuma rushed forward to finish him off, but Ishigami's captain executed an arm lock and then finished him with the back throw technique, throwing him away with just one hand. Now the score was 2-1 in favor of Ishigami High School. One more loss, and Odachi High School would be officially eliminated from the tournament. The next person to step onto the fighting platform was Oski. Whether Odachi High School still had a chance to advance depended on this team captain. Oski's opponent this time was a bespectacled man. He had to win at all costs, otherwise, Kei and Yuma would blame themselves. Under psychological pressure, Hinamaru came over, patted his back, and encouraged him, though in a tough love manner. While Oski might not be as reliable as Ishigami's captain, he was someone willing to accept former enemies, people who had never played sports, and newcomers to sumo into his team. Therefore, everyone acknowledged him as their captain. They all believed he would win. After some words of encouragement from Hinamaru, Oski regained his spirit and stepped onto the fighting platform. On Ishigami's side, the four-eyed opponent confidently boasted to Sada that he would end the match right here. Since the match point belonged to Ishigami High School, the crowd started shouting more intensely. However, the referee had only signaled to get into the ready position when the four-eyed opponent rushed forward and head-butted Oski to the ground. Although this situation was a foul and the match would be restarted, it had already put the members of Odachi High School under enormous psychological pressure. The opponent had deliberately done this to distract Oski, making him think he had already lost. The crowd started shouting and cursing the four-eyed opponent for playing dirty, but he didn't care. However, the four-eyed opponent seemed to have underestimated Captain Oski. After that dirty play, not only was he not intimidated, but he became even more focused. As soon as the match started, he landed a direct hit on his opponent's face. The two wrestlers struggled continuously. Oski managed to grab the opponent's Mawashi belt, but was pushed away. It turned out that the bespectacled opponent, Sada, used to be considered a notorious school boss, who once single-handedly beat up dozens of delinquents to protect the sumo club. When they threatened to burn down the practice room, he beat them without missing a single punch. The two fought intensely, continuously launching dangerous attacks. People thought Sada was dominating Oski, but only he knew how strong Oski really was. It turned out that once, while shopping, Sada had accidentally seen Oski practicing sumo in the schoolyard. Knowing Oski's situation, also being harassed by delinquents, Sada felt contempt because unlike Oski, he had dealt with the delinquents himself. But day after day, Oski diligently practiced for 2 years, making Sada truly admire his perseverance. Since Oski and Sanada's strength was equal, this would be a battle of determination and endurance. The initial series of attacks had left Sada out of breath. Captain Oski seized this opportunity to quickly push back his opponent. The two embraced and rushed out of the fighting platform, and according to the referee's decision, Oski was the winner. The whole stadium was about to explode. Oski's teammates rushed over and hugged him, moving him to tears, but it was still too early to cry. The battle wasn't over yet. Thanks to Oski's recent victory, the score was once again tied. The match would proceed to the decisive battle between Hinamaru and Sada, wrestlers known as national treasures. Since this match was between two national treasures, Saki had already set up a camera and instructed her two friends to observe carefully. Even Shun came to watch his old friend compete. This match would determine which team would advance to the national tournament. But Sada didn't feel any pressure and confidently declared he would win. Sada had the ability to excel in all sports he participated in and continuously won awards. Once, while watching sumo, Sada told his two female friends that he had never played sumo. The two girls stopped him because they thought wearing a mawashi belt didn't look cool at all. But when witnessing the red-haired boy on the fighting platform, Sada smiled. If there was someone who looked cool wearing a mawashi belt, that person would be the coolest ever. So Sada became a sumo wrestler to be able to fight at full strength with an opponent like that red-haired boy. But when he succeeded in sumo and was honored as a middle school yokozuna, his opponent disappeared. Sada's belt was pristine white because no one in this tournament had been able to touch it. Could Hinamaru defeat such an opponent? The match hadn't even begun, and Chihiro could already feel the powerful aura emanating from the two national treasures. At the referee's signal, both immediately rammed into each other. Hinamaru, with his direct fighting style, launched continuous attacks against Sada. Sada, with his speed, executed arm locks, but Hinamaru managed to escape them all. To counter these arm locks, Hinamaru increased the speed of his strikes. Sada realized that only some of Hinamaru's attacks were truly powerful. After identifying them, he launched an attack to disrupt Hinamaru's offensive stance. But the more he countered, the more Hinamaru increased his speed, making it impossible for his opponent to distinguish which attacks were powerful. Despite being dominated, Sada smiled because he had always looked forward to such a battle. Hinamaru was different. He could only smile after defeating his opponent. Whenever Hinamaru tried to get close to use a throw, Sada pushed him away to maintain a safe distance. Sada grabbed onto Hinamaru's mawashi belt and was about to execute his half-moon technique, but Hinamaru seized this opportunity to counter with his demon wheel technique. Hinamaru continued with his demon storm technique to throw Sada down, but his legs were very stable, so he followed up with his 100 demons throw technique. Just as he was about to be thrown down, Sada seemed to awaken, striking Hinamaru's hand directly to break the 100 demons throw technique. Then using his quarter moon technique, grabbing Hinamaru's throat, but Hinamaru still managed to resist. Hinamaru firmly grabbed Sada's mawashi belt to throw him, but this attack was blocked. Then, Sada unleashed his counter full fist, second moon technique, thinking he could defeat Hinamaru, but Hinamaru's supporting leg remained firmly on the ground. Although he escaped Sada's arm lock, Hinamaru's hand was now injured. Despite the pain from his right arm, Hinamaru still rushed forward, head-butting Sada, then seizing the opportunity to launch a technique attacking 3 points simultaneously. With all his strength, will, and the belief of his teammates, Hinamaru successfully executed his 100,000 demons throw technique, throwing Sada down to the amazement of everyone around. Odachi High School had officially secured a ticket to the national tournament after Hinamaru's victory. The whole stadium was about to explode. Even Riane, who used to hate this sport, changed her perspective. After the match, Chihiro checked Hinamaru's hand injury. Fortunately, it was only a minor injury, not a dislocation. Hinamaru told Chihiro to calm down. There was nothing to panic about. Chihiro teased that he was a coach, but had no use in the most important match, yet celebrated the loudest, making Chirihiro's face turn red as he said this was like a mother watching her child perform in a play, leaving everyone confused about what he meant. Hinamaru had fulfilled his promise to Captain Oski that this wouldn't be his last match. Chihiro, observing, realized that in Hinamaru's final throw, he had recognized his arm wasn't strong enough, so he closed it and used his entire body. This was completely Hinamaru's instinct, and it was unknown how much stronger he could become. Although they had won, Kei felt unhappy because he hadn't contributed anything to this victory. Yuma came over to encourage him, saying they might be a burden now but needed to show their teammates what they could do at the national tournament. After all, in a battle, there must be winners and losers. The winners are cheered and congratulated by everyone, while the losers must accept defeat and leave with regret. On Ishigami High School's side, after injuring Hinamaru's arm, Sada's right shoulder was also dislocated and had a bone fracture. Sada felt very disappointed in himself. Despite being praised as a national treasure and the team's trump card, he lost, disappointing everyone. Seeing Sada like this, Ishigami's team captain came to encourage him. He expressed his wish for Sada to stay with the sumo club and help it become stronger. The Ishigami High School Sumo Club would now be entrusted to him. Araki was still crying heavily after the defeat to Odachi High School, blaming himself for the team's loss. The other members seemed tired of this and joined in with him, making Araki cry even louder. Thanks to the resounding victory over Sada, everyone now knew Hinamaru's true strength. The two guys with Saki still thought he was nothing compared to Tanoji, arguing over who would give the video Saki had recorded to him. At this point, Master Shibakiyama also arrived, telling everyone to speak softly to avoid revealing his identity, but everyone had already recognized him. On Shun's side, after watching the match, they had to admit that Hinamaru had become much stronger than when he fought Q's, but since the match with Hinamaru, Q's had locked himself in the training room. With the end of the team tournament between high schools, the sumo wrestlers would next move to the individual tournament. Sada, after his recent injury, would not be able to participate, so Hinamaru was almost certain to win. However, Hinamaru didn't think so. His opponent was still Chihiro, who intended to defeat Hinamaru and become the strongest wrestler. The door to victory was open for everyone, and Hinamaru would be the one to extinguish all those efforts and hopes to become the strongest wrestler. Just as Rihanna stepped out of the tent, she saw Saki coming to ask if she was the manager of Odachi High School's sumo club. Rihanna just laughed awkwardly, saying this wasn't baseball or soccer where they would have female managers. Hearing this, Saki's face darkened, realizing she wasn't normal. At this point, the individual tournament was about to begin. Oski would be the first to compete. The top 3 from the individual tournament would advance to the national round. Oski wanted Hinamaru to win easily, so he didn't intend to win in order to avoid facing him. Lost in thought, Oski started late, but fortunately, his opponent wasn't very strong, so he still won easily. Master Shibakiyama, observing from outside, realized that Oski intended to give up in the individual tournament, but if he ran away from his teammates, he wouldn't deserve to go to the national round. The next person to step onto the fighting platform was Hinamaru. Although his right arm was hurting, with the ability of a national treasure, he only needed one move to defeat these opponents. Regarding the rules of the individual competition, anyone here could face each other, so being teammates didn't mean they couldn't fight each other. Once on the fighting platform, everyone was an opponent, and you had to fight with all your might to win. When it was Chihiro's turn, despite having seen Sada compete only once, he had successfully imitated the quarter moon technique, impressing even its original user. Not only could he copy skills extremely quickly, but Chihiro's fighting ability was also extremely high. After defeating his opponent, Chihiro thanked Hinamaru for teaching him sumo to become stronger. Next, he would defeat Hinamaru and take one more step on the path to becoming the strongest wrestler. Yuma later also easily defeated his opponent with a move from karate. After advancing to the inner round, Hinamaru encountered Chihiro. Both were extremely serious about defeating the other to become the strongest wrestler. The match began. Hinamaru rushed forward, but Chihiro quickly dodged and used the inner thigh counter move he had copied from his match with Araki. But this wasn't enough to trouble Hinamaru. Chihiro continuously used skills he had copied from other opponents. For Chihiro, this tournament was like a feast full of supreme skills. With his ability to copy skills and constantly change fighting styles, Chihiro now was completely different from the person who had practiced with them. But it still wasn't enough. He couldn't defeat Hinamaru with just those things. Copied skills certainly couldn't be as strong as the originals. Evidence of this was that despite launching a bunch of skills, Hinamaru's lower body hardly moved. Chihiro used Yuma's leg sweep technique to distract Hinamaru, then tried to use a headbutt, but he was countered by Hinamaru with a headbutt so strong it caused his forehead to swell. It turned out he wasn't the only one who had grown stronger in the tournament. Hinamaru wasn't joking around anymore. He grabbed Chihiro's Mawashi belt and then executed a hand throw and inner thigh flip, creating the Demon Storm flying hand technique, throwing Chihiro down and claiming victory. After being defeated by the protagonist, Chihiro didn't feel disappointed, but rather excited because the path to becoming the strongest wrestler was still very long. After watching the recent match, Oski got goosebumps. He also wanted to fight Hinamaru and win. Next, it was Kei's turn to enter the competition. Because he was too small, he still hadn't won a single match. Coach Kirihito told him he could put his trust in him. He would definitely help Kei win in the national round. Captain Oski had changed his thinking by this point, no longer hesitating but continuously defeating opponents because he wanted to fight Hinamaru. Finally, that match arrived. Hinamaru would face Captain Oski in this match. Kirihito, as a coach, wanted everyone here to fight with all their might and didn't want anyone to lose. However, Hinamaru was only hiding his arm injury from everyone. In reality, he was being torn apart by pain. He didn't want to tell everyone because he feared they would go easy on him. Fighting with all their might was the way to show respect to teammates. Thanks to Hinamaru, Oski's love for sumo had been growing. He had helped him experience the joy of being with teammates and the joy of victory. But those were emotions outside the fighting platform. Today, Oski would fight with all his might because this was the first and last time he would face Hinamaru. The match began. Hinamaru rushed forward, head-butting Oski's chest. But he had trained every day to withstand this move. Oski then gripped Hinamaru's rear arm muscle, but he responded with a similar move. Oski realized that Hinamaru's grip wasn't as strong as usual, probably because his hand was seriously injured. Just as Captain Oski intended to let Hinamaru win, he was stopped by him. Fighting with all one's might was how to show respect as a sumo wrestler to an opponent. So the senior didn't hold back anymore and went all out against his junior. Hinamaru wouldn't give in either. The two continued to struggle. Captain Oski now seemed like a different person, attacking his junior without holding back. The upper body training and heart rhythm conditioning from the coach were extremely useful for him, who had previously focused only on lower body strength. However, Hinamaru wouldn't let anyone win just because he was injured. He even used his injured arm to strike. He would endure the pain. In middle school, Hinamaru had trained alone, receiving no help or advice. Hinamaru had thought no one could understand him and had accepted that until he saw the self-made sumo ring. He had felt like he had a real brother. Although Hinamaru's elbow was very painful, nothing could stop him from giving his all in a match with Captain Oski. Hinamaru unleashed his demon wheel technique, but Oski's lower body was too strong, so he withstood it. Both felt they were facing a real opponent, so they gave their all. Hinamaru stood firm and pushed Oski out of the fighting platform. He intended to put all his strength into this move. Oski held his breath to brace himself against it. The match became increasingly tense. Although it wasn't yet clear who would win or lose, the audience was cheering for both. But in the end, Hinamaru's stamina and strength were a level above Captain Oski's. Just as he ran out of breath, he managed to push him out of the fighting platform and win, making the stadium nearly explode. Despite losing, Oski considered this the most satisfying match he had ever fought. The two then shook hands and made a promise for the national round. After the excitement subsided, Oski remembered to ask about Hinamaru's hand. Indeed, outside the fighting ring, he was still the dedicated team captain. The group then went up to receive their awards. Rihanna also asked to take a commemorative photo to congratulate everyone on their victory. The next day, when Hinamaru arrived at school, he saw a huge banner congratulating the sumo club for earning a place in the national round. It seemed that people at school had followed yesterday's match, so now they were cheering for the sumo club as if they were their idols. During the school-wide assembly, the sumo club members were called up to receive their award, and the crowd below started shouting everyone's names. The principal had also watched this match and praised it as very impressive. Coach Kirihito took this opportunity to ask the principal to increase the club's budget. Although they were being celebrated, the group didn't understand why other students knew so much about yesterday's match. There weren't many supporters for Odachi High School at the time, so this was quite puzzling. Just then, Kei ran over saying he knew why the students at school were acting this way. On his phone was a video of their final match from yesterday. Someone had recorded the match and posted it on social media, and the video had become trending. While they were wondering who had posted it, a female student suddenly appeared, claiming she was the one who had uploaded the video. This black-haired girl was named Chizuko. She was the girl Hinamaru had rescued from a pervert on the train earlier. Chizuko admitted she was very excited when the sumo club was established and wanted to spread this feeling to other students. She had come today to ask permission to become the club's manager. The sudden appearance of a female manager excited the boys immensely. Just as Kirihito needed someone to help, he immediately agreed. Seeing that she was about to be sidelined, Student Council President Rihanna couldn't sit still and asked why they hadn't consulted her first if they wanted a manager. Kirihito wasn't hesitant and accepted both girls. From now on, the Student Council was under the control of the sumo club. The group then went to a BBQ restaurant to celebrate their victory and the addition of 2 new members. Seeing that their club had gained the beautiful Chizuko, Kei and Chihiro kept flirting, asking her whose match was the most interesting. But they didn't know that Chizuko had a crush on our protagonist. Just one eye contact made her face turn completely red. Rihanna, fearing her position in the club would be shaken, proactively stood up to assert herself, but was shocked when Hinamaru couldn't even remember that she was Yuma's sister. By the way, the sumo club manager had to do the things that Captain Oski and Kirihito had been doing, and also had to prepare ingredients to cook Chankanabe stew. They couldn't cook this dish due to lack of budget. Hearing this, Rihanna said she could handle the money, so Kirihito successfully lured this girl. Incidentally, they were at a 2,000 yen buffet for 90 minutes, so whatever they were doing, they should eat first. There were over 100 dishes, including BBQ, sushi, and desserts. They could eat as much as they wanted within the allowed time. The boys started competing to see who could eat more, while the two girls had their eyes fixed on the dessert counter. Yuma grilled meat so expertly that the restaurant owner had to use the most exquisite compliments that no one would think to use for someone grilling meat. Kei was enthusiastically grilling each piece of meat when Chihiro used a whirlwind technique to steal all the meat from the grill and put it in his mouth, leaving the youngster only able to scream. Seeing that everyone was only eating meat, Yuma grilled a plate of vegetables for them, but Chihiro scolded him, saying if they were at a buffet, they should eat meat to get their money's worth. However, the restaurant owner didn't want them to eat too much, so he proactively brought out rice and ramen to offer everyone. These were all dishes high in carbohydrates that would make them full quickly and unable to eat more of his meat. But he had misjudged this club. They were sumo wrestlers with extremely strong appetites. At this point, Kirihito also brought out several plates full of food and said each sumo wrestler needed to eat 20,000 calories to have enough energy to train. They wouldn't stop until they reached 100 kilograms. So Captain Oski and Kei, who had been saying they were full, dove in and ate voraciously. Kirihito kept bringing out more food, while Chizuko sat filming, but only filmed Hinamaru. After getting tired of eating meat, they switched to decimating the desserts, making the restaurant owner restless because this would surely result in a loss for him. When only 5 minutes remained, they had all put down their chopsticks in surrender. This was torture, not a celebration. At this rate, they would have to pay a penalty. But Hinamaru said he was still eating and continued to grill more meat. Hinamaru wanted to force himself to become bigger like the legendary Yokozuna Yamatokuni, and moreover, wasting food was a sin. So he ate another pile of meat along with several bowls of rice. Everyone kept cheering for Hinamaru, making Rihanna wonder what they were doing. She turned to see Chizuko praising Hinamaru as cool with a blushing face. The restaurant owner, despite suffering a heavy loss, had to keep a smiling face, then immediately posted a sign outside forbidding the Odachi Sumo Club from eating there. The next day, Kirihito had changed the training method to pair matches. Yuma would fight Captain Oski, but for some reason, he was always distracted during training. When asked, he didn't say anything. It turned out Yuma still couldn't forgive his past mischievous actions. He thought he didn't have the right to practice sumo, but Captain Oski said he didn't care about that anymore. He knew how much Yuma had truly reformed and how much he loved sumo. Although they used to hate each other, now they were teammates, so there was nothing to worry about. What Captain Oski wanted now was to see Yuma enjoy sumo. It seemed that Kirihito's purpose in pairing these two together had succeeded. Oski had already forgiven Yuma. He just hadn't realized it. Oski's strength was his kindness, but Yuma didn't take advantage of it. So before going to the national round, Hinamaru wanted to let Yuma know he was always welcome here. Yuma, as if a burden had been lifted from his heart, could now fight wholeheartedly. That evening, Hinamaru and Kirihito sat studying the fighting styles of other opponents. In the upcoming national tournament, Hinamaru would have to face high school Yokozuna Tennoji Shido, which sent a chill down his spine. The only way they could think of now was to continue diving into training, but how to train was the question. Not knowing what to do, they received a call from Master Shibakiyama inviting the Odachi club to Nagoya this weekend to train together in preparation for the upcoming tournament. The next day, Odachi High School's sumo club took the train to Nagoya. As soon as they got off the train, Chihiro was excited to try the local food. But they were here to train, not to play. Since they arrived earlier than expected, and Master Shibakiyama had a meeting, they wouldn't be able to meet him until the afternoon. So the group decided to tour Nagoya Castle. The upcoming training for the national tournament would be very intense, so this was their only opportunity to relax. While everyone was having fun taking pictures, there was a sumo performance happening nearby. Hinamaru was very excited, continuously waving his hand, wanting to get on stage and challenge someone. But a guy with hair covering his eyes sitting in front was also interested, leading to a dispute between them. When the hair-covered eyes guy stood up, Everyone was shocked by his enormously large physique. Since both loved sumo, they decided to compete against each other. Whoever won would get to fight with the man named Keiji. As soon as the match began, Hinamaru was hit with a blow from the hair-covered eyes man that made him dizzy. The man continuously delivered extremely powerful strikes. Kirihito recognized him as National Treasure Odenta Mitsuyo, also known as Hikage Tenma. He immediately asked Hinamaru to stop fighting, but it was rare to meet such a strong opponent, so Hinamaru had to fight with all his might to test his own abilities. Hinamaru rushed forward, head-butting Tenma, then unleashed his 100,000 Demons technique. However, the other guy wasn't moved at all and just glared at Hinamaru. Hinamaru also realized something was off about this opponent. Just as the match was getting intense, it was interrupted by one of Tenma's seniors. It turned out that Tenma had sneaked out to play instead of cleaning the dojo. Tenma's team captain apologized to Hinamaru for the disturbance and then left. Coach Kirihito also noticed that when Hinamaru executed his throw, Tenma wasn't afraid but extended his arms as if welcoming the throw. The high school tournament had ended less than a week ago, but they had already found a way to counter Hinamaru's special technique. By now, they had been led to the training room, but Norihiro called Hinamaru out for a private conversation. Norihiro had heard about the previous match. Hinamaru was feeling very uncomfortable because his strongest weapon had been neutralized, but Norihiro said his real strongest weapon was his heart that never gives up. Master Shibakiyama had invited Hinamaru specifically to the private training area of professional wrestlers because he believed Hinamaru had the ability to overcome any obstacle before him. Outside, Riina and Chizuko were assigned by Kirihito to record Hinamaru's training for later study. The wrestlers there all wore white mawashi belts, meaning they were all Sekitori. They were very arrogant, and even though Hinamaru was a national treasure, in their eyes, he was nothing in the professional sumo world. Rank was everything. Master Shibakiyama knew those wrestlers were arrogant, but undeniably they were very strong. He could only help Hinamaru get this far. Whether he could learn anything or not depended on Hinamaru's determination. Facing the contempt of the professionals, Hinamaru still asked them to confirm his rank. His opponent this time was Miyanoshiki, ranked 8th in the Migashita class, a rank even higher than Norihiro's. While Hinamaru had never defeated Norihiro once, the match began. Hinamaru rushed forward but was pushed back by his opponent because his strength was too overwhelming. Surprisingly, Hinamaru was still able to hold on, then grabbed Miyanoshiki's mawashi belt and used all his strength to execute his 100,000 Demons throw technique, successfully throwing down this heavyweight opponent, greatly surprising everyone, including a strange old man. After this victory, other wrestlers commented that Hinamaru had quite an interesting fighting style and wanted to face him. However, in the following matches, Hinamaru still used the same skill but couldn't win any more matches. The reason was that everyone here was a professional wrestler. They had observed Hinamaru's fighting style and found ways to counter it. One move couldn't work twice. His special technique had been seen, shocking Hinamaru and making him start to lose confidence in himself. Riina worried that at this rate, Hinamaru wouldn't be able to become a high school Yokozuna because his spirit, body, and skills had reached their peak. The strange old man standing nearby heard this and objected. Skills were something that had to be improved throughout life and could never reach their peak. The old man came over to look at Hinamaru's face, then told Norihiro that he would borrow this kid and the brown-haired girl for a while. The Sekitori there bowed to him when they saw him. Who was this old man after all? Later, the old man led Hinamaru and Riina to a mansion. Everyone wondered about his identity, but he just told them to open the door themselves. Inside was an unused sumo training room full of dust. It turned out this old man was a former Yokozuna. He wanted to refine Hinamaru's special technique to become a real weapon, instead of wasting time practicing with those wrestlers. The former Yokozuna wanted to refine Hinamaru's 100,000 Demons throw technique to become a real weapon and asked if he wanted that. Hinamaru would do anything to become stronger. He bowed his head and asked the old man to train him. Odachi High School's sumo club would stay in Nagoya for a week to train, so the old man wanted Hinamaru and Riina to spend that entire week with him. Hinamaru's participation was understandable, but why did Riina have to stay too? The former Yokozuna didn't explain anything. He gave requirements to both of them. If they wanted to become his disciples, they had to follow exactly what he asked, without complaining or asking him to explain anything. Chizuko wondered who the old man was. From everyone's reactions, he seemed to be a very important person. According to Norihiro, the former Yokozuna's professional name was Shunkai. His skills in his prime as a sumo wrestler were undisputed. Additionally, he was an excellent coach who had trained 2 wrestlers to reach the Yokozuna rank. Rumor had it that for some reason, he had left the association and had nothing to do with sumo anymore. Meanwhile, Tenma had returned and began participating in the training session. On the other side, Shunkai gave the 2 of them 100 yen and made them buy ingredients to cook curry for 3 people within 30 minutes. Rihanna continuously complained that this amount was too little, and 30 minutes wasn't enough to cook curry. But Shunkai said using one's brain was also part of training, so there must be some way. However, they didn't know what that way was, so the curry they cooked was immediately rejected by Shunkai for being terrible and taking too long. Rihanna couldn't understand what kind of training this was, when the old man kept making them do things unrelated to sumo like walking dogs, watering plants, and doing laundry. They had spent half a day just doing housework. At this point, Master Senkai approached and told them to prepare the sumo ring. He wanted to see Hinamaru's sumo. After Hinamaru changed clothes, the old man invited 2 sumo wrestlers to practice with him. He wanted Hinamaru to demonstrate the 3-move combo for the wrestler to see. The first time Hinamaru executed the technique, he won, but afterward, the old man made him use only that technique to win against the Sekitori. Unlike the first time, the element of surprise was gone because the wrestler had seen it. So Hinamaru was repeatedly defeated by the Sekitori. After 15 minutes of practice, Shunkai signaled for them to rest. That evening, Kirihito brought Hinamaru's and Riane's luggage. He asked about the former Yokozuna's training, and Rihanna started complaining and advised Hinamaru to give up. But Hinamaru picked up his luggage and said if he withdrew on the first day, he would definitely regret it. As they were about to enter the house, they accidentally overheard a conversation between 2 wrestlers bad-mouthing Shunkai, saying he only made Hinamaru do chores while he enjoyed himself. The story about training 2 Yokozuna must have been because they were geniuses to begin with. Countless young wrestlers couldn't stand his oppression and left. Their conversation was overheard by Shunkai standing behind them. He was very angry and splashed water from a flower vase in their faces. He scolded them, saying they weren't allowed to mock Hinamaru because they couldn't understand how much effort he had to make, being born with such a small body. The next day, the old man again gave Hinamaru and Rihanna 100 yen and made them cook a dish with 8 types of vegetables. Rihanna thought this was impossible because 100 yen wasn't even enough to buy vegetables. But Hinamaru thought there must be some puzzle here related to him, optimistic to a pitiful degree. So they cooked a stir-fry dish, but were still rejected by Shunkai because it looked too simple and only had 3 types of vegetables. After that, Hinamaru continued training. Rihanna wondered why Shunkai didn't tell Hinamaru what he should do to win. But Shunkai said if he told him, the kid wouldn't absorb it properly and would think he already understood. It was better to let Hinamaru figure it out for himself. His method might seem convoluted, but later it would help Hinamaru perfect his ultimate skill. On the other side, Tenma was also diligently practicing. After hearing that Shunkai was training some kid, Tenma couldn't contain himself and approached to ask what they were practicing. That evening, Rihanna was soaking in the bathtub and complaining about this training course when Shunkai, standing outside in the yard, overheard her. This was his house. He could go wherever he wanted. Shunkai praised Rihanna for working hard, but she said she only did so because if she left, Hinamaru wouldn't be able to train. The old man realized that Hinamaru's sumo style had a unique charm that couldn't be seen in professional sumo. Seeing a small person throwing large guys made his blood boil, and he wanted to help him. Shunkai thought it was great that Rihanna was here with Hinamaru because the kid was clueless while she was smart. Just as Rihanna finished bathing and came out, she saw Hinamaru running in from outside, holding a bunch of flyers he had collected in preparation for the next day. Rihanna was speechless at his silliness, telling him if there was anything he didn't understand, he should just ask her since she was his manager. Hinamaru, as if enlightened, grabbed Riane's hands to thank her, making her blush profusely. The next day, Tenma, jealous of Hinamaru, came to Shunkai's house to ask him to accept him as a disciple. Just then, Hinamaru returned from shopping and witnessed this scene. To prove to Shunkai who was more worthy of being his disciple, Tenma took off his shirt and challenged Hinamaru to a match. Although Hinamaru hadn't perfected his 3-move combo, he accepted the challenge, saying he would use his 100,000 demons throw technique to win this match. The match began. Tenma, with his longer reach, gained the advantage. But after being trained by Shunkai for a few days, Hinamaru had also become stronger and could fight on par with Tenma. Despite his small frame, Hinamaru rushed forward and head-butted Tenma, then grabbed his Mawashi belt to execute his throw. Although Tenma tried very hard to push Hinamaru's head down to the ground, he was eventually swept off his feet by Hinamaru's leg sweep, followed by the 100,000 Demons throw technique, successfully throwing Tenma down. Shunkai, witnessing the perfection of Hinamaru's 3-move combo, was very pleased. Hinamaru's next challenge would be to fight a real Yokozuna. Although he could defeat Tenma when facing a real Yokozuna, his level was still far too distant. He couldn't even last 5 seconds, and so Hinamaru's training period ended. Next, he would return to join his teammates in conquering the summer high school tournament.